This evening on Money Matters, we discuss the Perlindungan Ekonomi dan Rakyat Malaysia PERMAI assistance package, safeguarding the people's welfare and ensuring business continuity. Is this package effective in combating the COVID-19 outbreak? All this right now. Welcome to Money Matters with me, Zahir Kelvin Ong Abdullah. Today we will be looking into the 15 billion ringgit PERMAI assistance package unveiled by the Prime Minister on January 18 to combat the COVID-19 pandemic. And the Finance Minister yesterday announced that there will be no other lockdown for businesses. To discuss this, we have Bank Islam's Chief Economist, Dr. Muhammad Afzal Nizam Abdul Rashid, who is joining me virtually from Negeri Sembilan. Welcome to Money Matters, Doctor.
Hi.
Can we start off by getting you to comment on the Finance Minister, who basically said yesterday that there will be no total lockdown for businesses, but the focus will be more on the MCO's SOP enforcement. What are the reactions that you are hearing since this announcement was made yesterday?
Well, I think from the economic standpoint, that gives us the assurance that the guarantee of no lockdown would mean that the economic activities will be able to operate quite decently, hopefully, because we can expect in terms of the restriction could be much lax in that sense, that would allow the economic activities to proceed as almost per normal. But again, when we look at the number of new cases, which continue to record all-time high, I think it gives us some sense of uneasiness towards our success in flattening the curve in terms of the infection. And what we means in terms of to successfully contain the spread of the disease. So I think my take on the statement, I'm quite mixed. On one hand, yes, we can say that the economic activities could proceed, but at the same time, we are continue to see the number of new cases continue to record an all-time high. So a little bit of mixed feeling over there.
Thank you. Now, the Finance Minister also said that an additional 500 million on top of what was allocated in Budget 21 was allocated for the wage subsidy program. So do you see this as much needed or adequate?
Well, it's difficult to say whether this assistance is adequate or otherwise, but we are quite assured that the government is taking a proactive approach in respect to how they should respond to their surrounding. And obviously, in respect to COVID-19, it hasn't, meeting its target in terms of containing the spread of the disease, and therefore there will be a trade-off in terms of the economic activities. So I foresee that there will be a series of announcements going forward for as long as this situation of COVID-19 continue to take hold and continue to remain the key source of risk in terms of the public health and what we mean in terms of the economic activity. So I would say that that there will be more announcement going forward in respect to government assistance.
Thank you. Now, looking at what MIDA has released yesterday in response to reports of falling foreign direct investments, MIDA has identified 240 FDI projects worth 81.9 billion and expected to be implemented this year and in 2022. What are your thoughts on this?
Well, I think the investment environment, is very tricky because the situation they were in is unprecedented, and we are unsure how soon we are going to to curb this COVID-19, and therefore, I like to think that the businesses, the FDI, will continue to be cautious in terms of implementing the investment activities. But I think the government is continue to remain steadfast and continue to remain proactive to ensure that these investors will continue to have a pleasant experience whenever they come here, whenever they do business in our country. And I like to think that our state of infrastructure, our regulatory environment, and perhaps our talent pool could actually help in terms of implementing or executing their investment activities. So it's a continuous effort. It's a marathon, if you like, in terms of attracting those quality FDI to our country. So it will continue to be as such, Kelvin.
Okay, just before we go for our commercial break, Senior Minister Dato Sri Muhammad Azmin Ali has said that Malaysia's external trade has rebounded and the highest trade surplus in 23 years. Do you think this is due to the easing of restrictions?
Well, if you look at the numbers, last year, our total exports for the year fell by 1.4%. But our total imports is actually fell much faster, more than 6% in terms of contraction. That would leave us higher trade surplus. So actually, it's a function of the difference between the export and import. But in this case, the contraction in import is much larger compared to export. That would leave you with a higher trade surplus. But again, you are right in terms of easing of restriction has helped in terms of contributing our export activities, our trade numbers. If you look at our December numbers, it went up to 10.8% year on year, which actually beating consensus estimate, which we're looking at more than 3% growth. So, but again, that's December numbers, but we have yet to see what would be the January numbers. So, it's continuing to remain fluid, Kevin, in terms of the numbers going forward.
Okay, thank you, Doctor. We are going for a short break now. Find us on Twitter, share your thoughts on the discussion so far. And coming up, we will talk about the PERMAI assistance package.
Co-op Bank Pertama, CBP
Money Matters. If you are just joining us, we're speaking to Bank Islam's chief economist, Dr. Mohammad Afzal Nizam Abdul Rashid. Now, Doctor, talking about the PERMAI, the 15 billion PERMAI assistance package announced by the Prime Minister on January 18, does the package improve or enhance on the ongoing initiatives by the government?
Well, the way I see it, Kelvin, in terms of the government assistance, we need to understand that the magnitude in terms of the COVID-19 and how it affects our livelihood, and therefore the government needs to set the right priorities. So the way I see it, it's a tough choice between ensuring that the health crisis remain in check, but at the same time to allow economic activities to proceed. So where PERMAI or even other stimulus package situated in this situation is actually how it can actually try to mitigate the impact, try to minimize the negative impact coming from the COVID-19. So the way I see it, the government will continue to assess the current situation, and among other, in terms of the measures that has been announced, the key measures, I would say, the wage subsidies program perhaps would be the more critical one, because we try to preserve the job markets and try to incentivize, to give the right incentives for the employers to at least try to maintain whatever workforce that they have, So I foresee that the wage subsidies program going forward could be enhanced should, the COVID-19 issues continue to affect our economy. Mm-hmm. And you can see that, cash transfers program could also be speed up, basically to help to alleviate the financial burdens, especially to the, those who are these vulnerable groups, especially the M40, the B40. So I think that kind of approach will continue for as long as COVID-19 remain the key risk for our economy.
Right. Now, the Prime Minister has also said, as part of the PERMAI package, that the banks will continue to offer moratorium extension and restructuring of loan payments. I have a two-pronged question for you here. So how will banks basically look at this on a case-by-case basis? And also, aren't banks also being impacted by the lack of business for them?
Well, Kelvin, typically banks, of course, we are worried when the economy in recession. The main concern, obviously, on our asset quality. When we say asset quality, it's actually issues relating to the non-performing loans, or what we call the gross impact financing. So the numbers that we have at the moment, yes, is creeping up. I think in November, it went up to 1.53%. So, of course, we are continue to remain vigilant the way we see things. So in respect to moratorium, a lot of people has been asking whether the bank has actually the financial muscle to to continue to dish out this kind of moratorium. Well, I mean, the immediate answer, I think the bank can actually continue to give out this moratorium, but it has to be targeted, because to me, if it's a blanket, if it's untargeted, it will be such a waste of resources, because we would like to see a positive impact. We want to see the positive outcome coming out from these measures. Obviously, the moratorium plays an important role in terms of giving some space to those who are affected. But those who are not affected, they should continue to pay, because there will be repercussions. One is obviously those who are not affected, but they opt for moratorium. Obviously, they would delay their maturity of the loans. Basically, it will take some time for them to settle all these obligations. And if you look at the car or hire purchase financing, if you take moratorium for hire purchase, then therefore you actually delaying the amount of outstanding. But at the same time, your car value continue to depreciate, irrespective whether there's moratorium or otherwise. So therefore, whatever measures that should be announced, it has to be targeted. So, but as for banks, I think we are in a good state, in good financial condition, thanks to Bank Negara robust monitoring system, I would say.
Okay. before we go for the commercial break, I'd like to ask you this. Under the PERMAI assistance package, basically to assist the cash flow of micro enterprises and SMEs, the government will expedite the implementation of microcredit schemes, including soft loans to banks, of course, 390 million by BSN, 350 million by Agrobank, and 295 million by Tekun. So basically, how will this be dispersed?
Well, my guess is that there must be continuous engagement with the relevant parties. And I think there should be a lot of, I would say, advertisement, more engagement with the targeted groups so that they are aware these packages is meant to help them. It's meant to help them to ease their pain in terms of undergoing this period of challenging period. So the way I see it is more communication and how this assistance would help them in terms of restructuring their finances and be able to take advantage whatever soft loans that could help them in terms of addressing their working capital, addressing their needs in terms of undergoing their capital expenditure. So I think it's a combination of communication and also be able to tell them in terms of the benefits of this program.
Thank you, Doctor. We've just got to go for a short breather. In the meantime, follow us on Twitter and let us know your thoughts on the discussion so far. Welcome back to Money Matters with me, Zahir Kelvinong Abdullah. Bank Islam's chief economist, Dr. Afzal Nizam, is still virtually with me. Now, Doctor, how do you view the general sense of the economy right now? How is it different from last year?
Okay, Kelvin, this is an interesting question, actually. Well, I must say that the current situation is very fluid. For instance, at the end of last year, we were feeling a bit upbeat, in terms of the economy in 2021. Little that we know that there's a MCO this year. So that really changed the way we see things, how it may pan out for the rest of the year. So at Bank Islam, we actually continue to have regular scenario buildings, and we, I must say that the forecast that has been made, we continue to be revisited, and the intensity of the changes is quite regular, I would say, because of the fluidity of the situation. So I think, in a nutshell, the way I see it, for as long as COVID-19 has not been resolved, so I think the scenario building exercise tend to be very fluid, and we tend to, to lean towards the, for the worst case scenarios in terms of being prudent, in terms of how it should translate into our strategy, our business going forward. But we also, at the same time, quite hopeful that the rollout of vaccine could happen as soon as possible, because that would be the game changer in terms of how we see things going forward. So, in a nutshell, I think it's very fluid, Kelvin.
Good to know that. Now, what is your take on the economic prospects for 2021 and the next?
Well, I think, like I said, since things are very fluid, and therefore, I think naturally businesses will be more guided, will be more trying to be more on the safe side. But at the same time, in terms of the competition, the intensity of the competition will continue, because the customers' demand, is very dynamic, and the advent of technology is unstoppable forces. So I think we need to weigh between the risks, and at the same time, we want to ensure that our market share will not be depleted. So I think it's a combination of those two. So I think in terms of businesses, I think it's very guarded lah. But at the same time, we are quite hopeful that the measures that has been announced in terms of the fiscal policies, in terms of monetary policies, should be able to provide the right support to the economy. So assuming that the herd immunity can be achieved perhaps in first quarter of next year or even earlier, that could actually help to accelerate our economy, because the amount of stimulus, the amount of the monetary policy accommodation is quite significant to provide the right support to the economy to grow much faster going forward.
Right. Final question, Doctor. What can we expect now that you've mentioned all those things? What can we expect, and how can the Rakyat embrace the challenging economic environment currently? Well,
I must say that being positive is number one, Kelvin, because the government has done their best, in terms of coming up with the financial assistance, and I must say that they have been very proactive. They have been, looking at the series of announcements, I think there have been 5 or 6 times of announcement in terms of fiscal stimulus, and every time they announce the allocation tend to go higher. So in that regards, I think the government has been trying their level best to ensure that the economic impact will be mitigated. So I think it's important to be positive. With positivity, it could perhaps, gives you more peace of mind in terms of coming up with what are the best solutions. So I think being positive is the way to go, Kelvin.
Right, so it's being positive. Doctor, thank you very much for being with us on Money Matters today.
Sure.
Before we go, find us on Twitter and let us know your thoughts about today's discussion. We'll be back next week with more money insights that matter. Till then, I'm Zahir Kelvinong Abdullah. Thanks for watching, and please remember to stay home and stay safe.